There it is.
Under the wire.
Live.
Everybody needs to be home by 6, not 5:30.
See, we're live. So I'll call this meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. You don't even get to sit down today. See, look at that. We're being efficient. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And introductions. Bob, we'll start with you.
Bob Neely, Ward 1.
Faith Fontaine at large.
Bonnie Hayes, Ward 2.
Tom Kendall, Ward 3.
Michelle McClellan, Assistant Superintendent.
Pat Gaudier at large.
Dan Poisson, Ward 5.
Elfrida Fournier, Mayor's Representative, Ward 4.
And communications. Does anyone have something they would care to share? Is Bonnie shaking her head?
I do.
Oh, go for it.
I do. It has come to my attention that there is some misinformation swirling in the city concerning the building committee, the new building committee, the new Edward Little High School building committee. There is one particular person that is questioning how the committee was chosen. Mr. Kendall, I believe you were there as part of that choosing a committee.
We had a lot of volunteers is what we did.
To volunteer for it.
Right.
Right. So I believe Jonathan, the previous mayor, I don't remember who the previous,
Counselors?
no, the previous city manager was. I don't know whether it was Howard or Peter. I don't think it was Peter. And I believe you were there and Katie was there. And I believe that Jonathan had a great influence on the chosen members. And this particular person that is swirling this nonsense out there is very upset that not all the members are residents of Auburn. There is one that is not. This particular person has been teaching in the Auburn school system for 15 years. She's one of our best teachers. She is committed to our academics and to our kids, and she is brilliant. And she sits on the sustainability committee, Tom, with you and I, and she's a contributing person to it. So, to the mayor, Jason Levesque, I'm telling you that this is how the committee was formed. To Andy Titus, a school committee, a city council person, I'm telling you how this was formed. And to the person that initiated this, and you know who you are, I'm telling you how this was formed. And if you have any questions, you need to bring it up with Katie Grondin, who was actually there, and Tom.
Yeah. It was a very open process. I mean, we were looking for good representation, reflecting different interests, broad spectrum in the city, but also the academic portion of it. And certainly, there's been no objection to a committee that's been in place for, what, over 2 years now?
I believe we've been going for 2 years,
Yeah,
Scott. Have we been
so
just
it's a
about
little
2
late
years?
to the ballgame if someone has a particular issue with it. But anyway, thank you, Bonnie, for that. Anyone else with?
I have one short thing. I'd
Yes,
just
Bob.
like to make a note. A member of the EL class of 1967. I also graduated from 1967, but on the wrong side of the river. Rick Getchell died, a lifelong resident of Auburn. Rest in peace, Rick. You'll be remembered.
He was a very active person
Very
in our
active.
community.
Knew Rick very well. He was the one of the managers on the ski team.
That's where,
Right.
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, anything else from anyone? Good?
Yes.
Yes.
I wanted to just update you all on a bill that we were following closely here in the school department, LD 1666. I don't know what it is now as public law, but that bill did get revised in final hours of the legislative process. There was a repeal put on it, and then there was some revision that came out of the legislative process, and it went to the governor's desk, and he did sign it into law. So basically, in a nutshell, we're still looking at that right now. This is all pretty fresh and new as to what the implications are. But in a nutshell, what that revision in that law now is saying is that districts will have a choice about a proficiency-based diploma, and you would, from what I can see right now, it would look very similar to the guidelines that are currently in law around proficiency-based diploma. So that wouldn't change. I think they did add the one-year extension in there, so they would giving districts an additional year. But I would like to be sure about that before I say that definitively. And then the second choice would be more the typical traditional completion of courses and the number of years required at the high school level to receive a diploma. That's it in a nutshell. Again, we're going to dig down and look at that more specifically, and of course you'll want to hear more about that as well. Yeah, go ahead.
So currently, as a board, we've adopted the proficiency-based standards.
That's in our policy.
In our policy at this point in time. So for a change in that, this board would have to act.
Yes.
Correct? So people should understand that. We are in the process of moving towards a proficiency-based diploma. All our policies are in place and progress is being made along that. But I suspect that individuals will hear from community members looking for us to reverse that course, perhaps, or at least amend that course. But be aware that we currently have policies in place that put us on the target for a proficiency-based diploma in 3 more years, correct? I think it's 3 more.
So yes.
Yes, yeah, 3 more years.
So Tom, if we decided to revoke our policy, what would we go back to? What would we do?
Well, we would choose what to do,
So-
because that's what the governor's allowing us to do.
Well, that would be the law that, just like we've always had laws that spell out what graduation requirements are, now that law has been revised to say there are 2 paths. There's the proficiency-based diploma path, and then there's a more, we'll call it, for lack of a better word, a more traditional path that
Okay.
we've had in the past.
Right.
It
So
looks very
credits, basically
similar.
credits based on seat time.
And it's more years, they're saying years
Yeah.
in each of the required courses.
Any further comment, question? Yes.
So we've changed the grading back, and one of the things that I really was adamant about was that we keep some sort of process for grading or indicating that they had met the standards. Is that going to be enough
For the state law?
to keep going with the state law if we go in that track?
I think, and Michelle can correct me on this, but we can adopt grading, 100-point scale, whatever we're doing, which is what the recommendation of that study committee was, and still have proficiency-based. There's no and/or, you know, it's compatible, so that's not a problem. We can proceed with our current
Right, I think I
policies.
know what your question is. So there is an in-between. So if you go straight proficiency-based diploma, the law is now saying this is what that will mean. If you're doing something else, you minimally have to make sure that students, that diploma represents that the student had a certain number of years in English, math, science, social studies. I think the arts was the other one. I'm going off the top of my head now. So, but you can go above that. There's a place in between those two that we could choose, or any district could choose to implement.
Okay, I understand that, but I'm also concerned about the actual grading shift that we've done, and the fact that PBL, proficiency-based grading, mandates that you indicate they've met the standards. And so we have kept that in our package, and I just want to make sure that's okay with the state.
Yes, it is.
It is. Any further question? All right, moving on to tonight's consent agenda, which is the approval of this agenda, approval of our minutes from our July 11th meeting, and the certificated nominations, of which there was an addendum, as long as everyone has seen that. So there were 3 people adding. Accept, yes.
I'll come back.
Okay, accept a motion to approve the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda for the 3 individuals, one included in the addendum.
All right, and a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in
A
favor?
clarification?
Yes, go
So
ahead.
we're approving the consent agenda.
That's correct. All those in favor? Thank you very much. I don't see much public, sorry, Scott, you are a member of the public, so if you choose to,
You don't want to come up and
Yes.
share any thoughts?
Roz is here too.
yeah, Roz is here too. But yes, Michelle, at
I'm
this point.
sorry, I should
Public
have said this
participation,
too.
You may join
If I
as
can-
as a public, yes.
Okay, so I apologize. There was one other thing I wanted to make sure you knew, and it's a minor thing, but I think it's important. We will certainly, we've been providing communication around graduation requirements to our parents, and most recently, it went out with the report cards. That we will continue to provide communication, clarity around what the graduation requirements are through this process. And I just want you to know that is on our radar. We've been talking about it today and how that needs to happen, particularly in light of this legislative action, because that is important in the community, and people are wondering and talking, and they'll want to know what that means for their students. So I want to just assure that we are thinking about that, and it will be communicated out.
So do the parents have to look at the grades, the report cards of high school kids?
Do we have to?
Well, do you?
I
mean,
do, yes.
Well, you do, but do they come to the parents? Do they come to just to the kids?
Well, they can sign up for,
Parents can sign up.
See 'em.
yeah, I see the second if my daughter's marked tardy, it will ding, or if she, when her grades go in, yeah. I have it notified on my phone.
Do they need a parent signature?
For report cards.
This is a superlative parent here.
Tends to change.
However, there are other parents that don't do what this young lady does, and they often don't realize what's happening in our community, our education community. So how are we disseminating that information to more? How?
So you're saying we need to cast our net wide
We do.
on our communication with this. And so typically when we try to do that, we use social media as a platform, and that hits a certain percentage more, right? I'm sure that the newspaper will be following this closely, and
Okay.
we'll make sure that we work with the Sun Journal. They're usually really good about that with us, to push out information that way as well. Not at the high school so much, but at the other levels, there are newsletters. We'll be talking to our administrative teams about what will be the communication approach to put out the information around the changes.
Anything else? We can actually see, you can all volunteer to be a member of the public and bring anything forward if you'd like. I'm not seeing anything, so I would remind everyone we have an upcoming meeting. Is it the 1st that we're doing?
Yes.
It is, so that was from the 8th, back to the 1st. All right, so it is the 1st, the joint meeting with City Council. Then our first regular school committee meeting is going to be the 22nd. We have no need for an executive session this evening.
Tom,
Yes.
when we have our joint meeting with the city council, can we be hospitable and say, we're going to set up the tables and we're going to sit together and not us up here, even though it's tempting, us up here and them down there?
I believe
The other way around last time.
Right, so I'm being hospitable and saying, I would hope that we
Round table.
have a,
or rectangle.
right, right, exactly.
I believe that is the intent, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Set that up.
Entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, declare us adjourned. Record time.